All right, you got roll call for us. Thank you so much. All right, announcements. The Community Development Authority will convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851E of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Negotiating an offer to purchase with the DeForest Car Wash Limited, negotiating a management service agreement with Attic Angel Management Services are on our closed agenda tonight. All right, and if there are no other announcements, okay, I would ask for a motion to approve the May 9th minutes.
If I could just note for a second, I believe in your packets, there were both the April minutes and the May minutes. On our agenda, it's noticed that only May is being up for approval. So I just wanted to note that the April ones were absent from the last meeting, but they're there for your reference. And I think we'll try to get those onto a future agenda for approval.
Okay, yeah, they weren't posted, so we can't take action, but. So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? A second. We have seconds. If there are no corrections, edits, or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, I got distracted by sign language over here.
I was trying to figure out if we were sharing.
Oh,
I did not catch who made the second on that.
Keith?
Either one, don't worry about it. Well, yeah.
All right.
All right, appearances tonight. I think ours go with the financial audit that I know of. So I would move right to new business and hi, Carla. And we will take item 6.1, presentation discussion of the 2023 financial audit results.
Randy, are you able to share, enable share screen? Through the laptop. I had it disabled, I think.
This is like getting a report card, Carla. Treat us nice.
It's all good stuff. Yes, so good evening. I am Carla Gogan, principal with Baker Tilly, and Katie Sam is with me this evening. She is a manager with Baker Tilly, and she is the one who does the heavy lifting as it relates to the financial audit. So Katie is going to walk through the presentation materials this evening, and we certainly welcome questions throughout, and certainly we'll open it up again at the end. So Katie, I'll turn it over to you.
And before she starts, Carla, I have to note, you guys got incredible coverage on the news regarding the Milwaukee School District audits. So, wow.
Yes, it's an interesting time for sure. So,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And Katie, it's turn it over to you.
Thank you. So we prepared just a short presentation here tonight just to do a high-level summary of the audit results. Overall, it was a pretty uneventful year. I'll say that Alex, Carol, and the entire team do a great job, so they make the process very easy from our standpoint. So as far as the audit is concerned, there are two reports that we issue, the first being the financial statements. And really the objective of an audit is to express an opinion on the financial statements. We take a risk-based approach to planning and performing our procedures, all to provide reasonable assurance that the balances are free from material misstatements. So the opinion that we issued this year on the financial statements is the unmodified opinion. This is also commonly referred to as a clean opinion, but it is the highest level that you can achieve. And it states that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles. So in addition to the financial statements, we also issue that reporting and insights letter. And this contains all of the disclosures and communications that we're required to provide by our professional standards. There were no significant changes with those, so they're going to look very comparable to previous years. A couple items within that letter that I wanted to point out would be the non-attest or non-audit services that we provide. This includes the use of civic systems, as well as us helping prepare the financial statements, although management does review and approve those. There's also a section in there for the internal control matters. So as part of the audit process, we review some of the processes and controls in place at the CDA. And then we disclose any deficiencies that rise to the level of material weakness or significant deficiency. So one item I wanted to point out is that previously we had reported a material weakness related to segregation of duties. But over the past year, with some more of the processes being handled at the village level, we were able to see some new controls in place and we're able to remove that point. So this year, there's no material weakness and no significant deficiencies reported. So great improvement. It's really good news for the
Yay,
CDA.
Carol.
That's the reports that we issue. So kind of diving down into a high level of the numbers. So looking at the statement of net position, total assets increased a little bit compared to last year, about 140,000. A lot of this was related to cash and investments due to the market return that I'll talk about on the next page. So current assets are up, non-current assets are down. This is largely in part because of no major capital projects in the current year. So as you continue to depreciate your infrastructure, the capital asset balance continues to decrease. Liability is very comparable year over year. We have the deferred inflow of resources. And this was a new line that you saw last year with the implementation of GASB 87. And that essentially represents the future recognition of non-refundable portion of the buy-in deposits as revenue. And then the last category is the net position. We have 3 categories this year. The restricted one is new, and that represents the donation from the village for seed money for the revolving loan program. Because the use of these funds is dedicated to a specific purpose, and that restriction comes from an external or a separate legal entity, we report that on a separate line. So moving next to the statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position. You want to scroll to the next page for me? So this is essentially your income statement. As far as your revenues go, the tenant revenue is up, largely due to the increase in the monthly service fee for Jefferson Square. I think that was about 56,000. As far as your grant revenue from HUD, pretty comparable year over year there. The bottom line, the other non-operating, that's kind of depends on the number of units turned over at Jefferson Square. The line with the biggest change is that gain and loss on investments, which is dependent on market conditions. So we see a lot of volatility in that year over year. As you can see, we had a big swing. We had a large loss last year and a large gain this year. And then as far as operating expenses, overall, very comparable. There was a decrease in the ordinary maintenance. Last year, we saw some larger projects and some consulting work. But really, overall, revenues are up, expenses are down, change in net position, or a little bit of adding to your accumulated resources.
And
So-
if I could just jump in here for a moment, and I'm sure we touched upon this last year, but while there was a loss in investments last year, typically the investments that a municipality can invest in, that they're very safe in nature. And so the intention is typically to hold those investments to maturity. So it's unusual that a community, that a CDA would actually realize the loss. So again, that was an unrealized loss. Typically, you're holding those investments to maturity. And then as you saw this year with market conditions, it swung the other way. So just want to reemphasize that there was no money lost ultimately as a result of the investment holdings of the CDA.
Thank you, Carla.
Any questions for Katie or myself or the CDA?
Questions? It's nice to see a positive balance at the end of 2023. Good work, staff, all of you. That's a big change, 500,000 negative to 68,000 positive. So that's a good thing.
It certainly is.
Did you have any thoughts, questions about the money we're reserving for maintenance and that sort of thing? Or you guys just sort of didn't look at that for this process?
You know, we really don't get into the, the operations in terms of the management of the CDA operations, including Jefferson Square. It's really reporting on the financial condition at a point in time. But it is our responsibility to look at the controls and get an understanding of the controls that the CDA has in place. And as Katie mentioned earlier, again, there was improvements made in terms of the control environment. So again, that's very positive.
Good, good. Well, I don't see a lot of questions this year, so that's a good sign with this crowd, because this is a crowd that asks good questions. So thank you. Unless Alex or Carol want to add anything, we can move on. I do want to thank you guys. This represents a whole lot of work and I know it. So thanks. All right, well, we will move on and thank you for taking part of your evening to be with us.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to present and also to attend virtually. We do appreciate that. So have a great evening and we'll be in touch soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a good news story. The next item on our agenda is the alleyway.
Yeah,
Roll, please.
so no news is good news for an audit, I will say that. What's that? Yeah, exactly. Uneventful.
Clean, I like clean.
Yes, exactly. So we have now the seating installed in the alleyway. If you've been over there, you will have noticed that that's been in for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Our public services team built some planters and actually installed plants in there yesterday, maybe sometime early this week. Looks really, really nice. They're actually working on building the benches. So on the library side of the alleyway are the planters, and in between, right now there's 3 planters there. In between each of those planters, there'll be, I think, 8-foot benches that'll be built into that too. So those are coming. And then the posts and the string lights are in the shop. They just need to be installed still. And obviously with some of the storm damage that we had, the public services team has been kind of tied up. It's kind of a nice partnership to be able to have with them. They've saved us quite a bit on cost to be able to do some of this work. So that's been big. Progress updates on the alleyway in general have been posted on our social media accounts, and so far it's been really favorably received. We had our community ambassador, Stacy Harmon, she shared a comment from a Facebook user today, just thanking for the accessible seating. Said it meant a lot to a family like theirs, so that was nice to see that too. So the lights and the post should be in here in the next couple weeks, and then we're on to looking at potentially some sort of public-private partnership or some sort of public engagement piece for the art installations. And then that'll be kind of a complete project. So it's kind of exciting. It looks really good. If you've had a chance to walk through there after the planters have been in, it looks really nice.
But I'm really glad it's in for the 4th of July so people can enjoy it. Yes, Rebecca.
Just one quick question with regard to the string lights. How low are they gonna be? I'm thinking in terms of, not that we really have that kind of a problem here, but I want to try and make sure we don't.
Sure. I think the posts that they're putting in are 12-foot posts.
Oh.
So they'll be 10 to 12 feet up.
Okay.
And those will be, I have to connect with
like-
Greg from Public Services a little bit to talk through it a little bit more. I believe that the plan was to have those on a timer. But I have to just double check and see how that's gonna look. I also do think that they're going to be plugged in on the library's electric. So that's something that we're gonna have to talk with them about and coordinate. But I'm sure we'll work it out. Everybody at the library has been really receptive to the project and happy that it went in the way it did.
Good, good. Well, thank you. That's good to have that moving forward. And was the wood some of what's gone down around the village?
I don't know if it's some of the recent one, but I know that it probably was from past. I think that stuff has to dry out a little bit first before they can
Right,
actually use it.
right. So it's reclaimed though.
Yes, it's reclaimed.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was
So
my question.
some of it is the planters and things. I think the benches as well will be. The posts, I think, are purchasing new.
Good, good. Wonderful.
Yeah, and then just to kind of put a cap on that, as we get into a little bit later this summer, maybe August, looking at budget stuff for next year, just keep in mind, it'd be really nice to continue these sort of public improvements in the downtown area. So, when we get to that point, if you have any ideas of where the next sort of this kind of placemaking project might be, I'd be happy to take those ideas.
Great. All right, good work, guys. All right, section 18, you want to keep it up?
Keep rolling. The last time we met, I believe I communicated that we had a tentative approval, amended approval from the SAC Special Application Center office. In various email correspondence with with our division director or regional director through SAC. I was trying to actually get the letter. We still don't have the letter. But in recent communication, they indicated that we can go ahead and move forward with the closeout procedure as if we have an approval letter. So that's good. The entire HUD, I think all of HUD right now is on a retreat this week. So I was expecting the approval letter this week. It hasn't come. I was also hoping to schedule a more in-depth closeout conversation with the Milwaukee field office this week. But we haven't got to that point either. So that'll probably be hopefully in the next week or two. I did get to schedule a call with the SAC and the Milwaukee field office that Carol J and I sat in on to sort of wrap our heads around what do we need to do next. And I was hoping we would go more into detail at that call. We didn't, but regardless, it was good just to get all the different departments of HUD on the same page, as well as our team on the same page, so that everybody understands our approach moving forward. So there's not really a whole lot of update outside of that. I wish I had an approval letter in hand to show you all, but we don't. The one thing that we did have as a conversation on that call, and we've had some further conversations internally after that, is from our understanding, there's a couple different ways that we could go about moving through the closeout process. If we close out quickly and move swiftly, then we can WHEDA, WHEDA is partnering with us on the vouchers for the existing facility. We would transition to that program and have an additional revenue source sooner than later. Alternatively, we could delay that a bit and still receive our capital fund allocation from HUD, which is about 70,000. So Carol and I have been running some rough numbers on what that looks like in terms of the best approach. And right now, I think we're leaning towards moving quickly with a closeout to make sure that we're on sound financial footing for the rest of the year. I know that's probably not a super clear explanation, but just want to bring it up that it is something that we're looking at internally when we do get that final approval in terms of the speed with which we're going to be moving forward. So
It's hard to be clear about anything related to.
tell me about it.
Been there, done that. Okay. All right, thank you. We're excited and hopefully it will all take place. Anything else in those reports? Otherwise, we'll go to other reports.
Did you have anything to add, either of you, from those calls? The HUD office? No.
Okay. All right, as we move into the housing division report, I have to ask, I heard rumors there was a fire at 509. Tell us, Jay.
Yeah, there was a fire. It was a small, contained to the area, actually directly on the stovetop. No real damage to the unit other than the door that the fire department had to break to get in to put out the fire. So, yeah, just some time putting it back together. The resident didn't actually even leave for the night because their room couldn't be secured. So, yeah, just mindful, make sure your stove's off when you leave your place.
Chief LaFever was taking big credit for having broken through that door. Don't we have a security key to give the fire department and the police department for those doors?
They actually have one. There's an access box directly for the fire department. I'm assuming, I can only assume, I haven't talked to them directly. I would assume that it was the speed to which they get in would be a factor. But
Carol, if Chief LaFever brings a request for disability,
oh, there was definitely a big pry bar used. I don't think it was a shoulder.
that
Heavy
wasn't,
doors.
that wasn't the story we got. All right, all right. We'll move into real business. The financial update.
Yeah, so a couple items of note for Jefferson Square. Obviously, we're no longer paying our housing division manager, so that's one piece. A couple other items came in on the capital side of things. We did have a charge for chimney caps. That's sort of been an ongoing repair and replacement that we've been doing. And then we also had our parking lots done over at Jefferson Square. So that was another big one. Apart from that, at Jefferson Square, we're kind of tracking as normal.
Okay. And have we, oh, I see, never mind. So did Jefferson Square and public housing split the audit cost, or how did that go?
We actually split it three ways now because we have a redevelopment side of things too. So the audit costs are reflected in here as well. We had previously done, I think, a 70-30 split. Now it's 65-25 and 10 in between Jefferson Square, 65%, public housing, 25%, and redevelopment, 10% allocated for audits.
All right, good. Okay. How about public housing update?
Public housing, fairly similar to normal. I would say the biggest cost for us right now, and it's an ongoing issue at the moment, is some bed bugs treatment. It continues to be something that we're fighting. Jay and I have kind of over the last 3 or 4 days actually put out a couple letters, and we're hoping that we can get some additional compliance in terms of not just spraying every time and then hoping that things miraculously change, but there are some additional steps that our pest control contractor, basically, in order to make these treatments be effective, we need to be following these additional steps. So we're going to be working with a couple different residents to make sure that we get compliance on those, so that hopefully we don't have this being an ongoing cost and ballooning into something a little bit more serious.
Are these bed bugs or roaches or?
Bed bugs. Mhm.
Oh,
So that's probably the biggest cost that we've seen on this last statement. But again, hopefully, I think we have a good plan in place, and I'm hoping that this next round, we plan spraying again on June 25th, I believe. And I'm hoping that between that and some of the activities that we're going to be coordinating with some of the residents, that we should be able to nip this in the bud.
okay. Questions? Okay.
How do we deal with this moving into new facility? at some point in time?
Well, I think, so that's still a few years out. From my perspective, sitting here, I would want to get it under control far in advance of that for our current facility and our current residents there too. It's a health and safety issue, to be honest. And I want everybody at 509 currently to be okay in their space until we get to that new facility. When we get to that new facility, in terms of the transition, I think we would want to also work closely with the contracted services that we have now to be proactive in planning that transition and understanding what steps we need to take, moving things from one facility to the other to make sure that they're free of any bed bugs and that we're not bringing stuff over. So we're going to rely on the experts when we get to that point. And, you know, they've been good. We just need to make sure that the necessary steps are followed.
Okay. One other question. The residents have their own furniture, correct? These are not,
That's correct. Yep.
okay. Yeah, that's, okay. We'll have to figure that out.
In one area?
What would you say? I think 2 units right now, perhaps.
So the bed bugs are contained in 2 units. The original infestation wasn't actually reported by the resident who had it. They had migrated to the neighboring unit. And she reported the problem, which is kind of the hang up with why they are still around. The protocol that the Premier Pest Elimination has for treating bed bugs wasn't followed to the letter, mostly because I suppose more of good faith, because the next door resident reported the problem. And so we attempted to allow her to not go to the full extent. And it's obvious now that that's just not the right way to do it. To piggyback on what Alex said before about the new building, I think that what we're doing here is going to go a long ways towards figuring out what that looks like. The hangup is ultimately the residents. We don't have any way of, other than possible eviction, to say that you have to do X, Y, or Z. We're kind of relying on them to do what we're asking them to do. Having consequences that are, that we can hold up and hold people accountable is going to be a really, really big part of the new facility for sure. Because, more people means more opportunities. It's not a low income thing. You can have bed bugs in a 5-star hotel. Just matters, where you've been. So hopefully like Alex said, we're gonna get this nipped in the bud. We're planning in inspections and treatment. I spoke with our pest guy a couple days ago. We're on the same page. If the apartment isn't ready to treat, we're not gonna treat it until it is ready. So I guess we're just gonna dig our heels in the sand and make sure that stuff is done the way that it's supposed to be done.
Is there a point at which we can request the removal of heavily infested furniture?
I think that's
Did that
part
in
of the,
Vermont at one point.
I don't know if the protocol pertains to furniture as much as it does to like clothing and things like that, but I think previously we have gone that step where we have had furniture removed. I think there is something in there about furniture. I remember mattress.
The units in question, the furniture isn't the problem. We're able to treat the furniture. It's all the nooks and crannies that these things can hide in with stuff in them. A bug has to go across a treatment to have its stuff work. It has to actually physically touch it. The stuff lasts a long time. It has a residual that will work for, I believe it's 2 months. It's just a matter of getting that product where it needs to be. When residents have too many things, which, a lot of us are known to accumulate things, that's the problem. further, they don't have, these residents don't have places, they don't have storage units, they don't have, a lot of them don't have family and resources. So where they're gonna take these things, it's difficult to ask somebody to throw away the stuff that they've accumulated over time. So it's all stuff that we're weighing and wrestling with trying to be fair and, be as human of a person as you can.
Yep, go ahead, Rebecca.
You said that the treatment lasts for X amount of time. I'm assuming that this is safe for humans.
Yep. There's limits to where it can get put.
Okay. Obviously not on like a kitchen counter or something.
No, correct.
Okay,
Bed bugs don't generally just travel around. They hide until it's time, until they're hungry, and then they go and find you, and then they go back to their hole pretty much. So you just gotta catch them and travel in between those areas. Yeah, believe me, I get the same lilies.
You need to put a shower in the garage for him.
your description was really awesome. We had visions.
All right, well, let us know where we get on that one. We've heard this story before.
Oh, yeah.
The unit summaries,
Yep, so fairly similar to what we saw last month, a couple additions to both wait lists. I think actually in the time since I put this slide together, there's a couple more on the Jefferson Square wait list now. I continually have eye-opening experiences in terms of how many people call regarding our public housing and looking for that kind of housing. The wait list is 30, but the calls I receive are numerously much more than that. Still the unit vacant at Jefferson Square. Been doing quite a few showings over the last 2 weeks. I did actually receive a couple voicemails today from one individual who we did do a walkthrough, and I think she wants to go see it again, so that's promising. But as of yet, there's been no commitments for that one. The primary reason so far has been the barn behind there. Some people just do not like that.
barn behind it.
There's a barn literally maybe 15 feet from the back of that. I like it. I think it's nice. I think it's
Yeah,
secluded,
it's
but-
sort of attractive. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
So I'm hoping that this callback here will maybe produce some favorable results. And then Jay and I did a walkthrough at 104 Meadow Lane yesterday or the day before. The resident there will be moving out June 15th. And it's in really good shape. So that should be a pretty smooth process to get that turned over.
And the basement there is back in good shape.
Mhm.
Renee,
Just two things. One is I was with a friend who I didn't know had relatives living in Jefferson Square. Said they absolutely love it. I think they moved in a year and a half ago. So that was awesome to hear. And then they also asked me what the deal is with signs up, because they always thought it was really hard to get in. That there was a waiting list.
Mm.
And they said they saw for sale signs or, something posted. And I just said, it's one of those, so tell me if this is the right answer or not. I said, generally when there's openings, we go through the list and some people just aren't ready.
Yep.
Like they've been on the list for years because they want to move in there eventually.
Yep, yeah, that's correct. So for this particular unit, we've gone through both, we maintain two wait lists, one's for the 2-bathroom and one for the 1-bathroom units. And everybody who's on the wait list either isn't ready or wasn't interested in this particular unit.
Thanks.
You're absolutely correct.
Rebecca,
She said signs and that reminded me of this. What about the entrance
For the pillar?
for Jeff Square? When I've been over there the past couple of times, now it's been about, I don't know, a week or two since I was over there, but
Sure.
that entrance was all mangled.
Yes, it is still mangled.
What's
So,
going on with that?
If you recall, I think it was February, it was either March or February, LRS knocked over the pillar for the main sign. there was some confusion. I think when Zach was still here, he was under the impression that LRS was going to be coordinating with the insurance for that. It didn't end up happening that way. I've since ended up communicating directly with the insurance company. And actually just yesterday, I gotta tell you, we got, they're going to be paying for it and I've got the dollar amount. So we can kind of close the chapter on that and move forward with getting somebody out there to do the repair on
Yeah,
that.
because that was a real eyesore.
Yeah, I know. What's that?
Ran into it.
Or car.
LRS, our recycling company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they took it out pretty good. Mhm. So part of the, where we were going back and forth on too was wanting to be consistent with the replacement of that pillar and making sure that it matched, because they're brick columns that hold the sign, making sure that the north one, which is the one that got knocked down, matched the south one in terms of brick color, grout, all that stuff. So we were hoping that they would pay for a full replacement of both. And Paul Davis, I think for whatever reason, I keep wanting to say it's Paul Jones, but it's Paul Davis Restoration. They gave us a quote for both, but the insurance company is only willing to pay for the one. So that's where we sit with that.
That
I
doesn't
guess we'll
surprise
have to
me.
cross that bridge when we come to it.
Mhm. No.
All right, any other questions? So hopefully we will fill 104 and finally get to fill 720. That would be great.
Is there anything that you want to add to any of the?
Well, I guess as far as filling 104, that unit's gonna be filled internally. We're gonna move somebody from the 509 building to that unit. It's well, technically there's a wait list for those, for the Meadow Lane units. So we're gonna move one of the residents with actually, that's not really official yet, I suppose.
We have, per our ACOP, we're allowed to have transfer wait lists, and there's different transfer procedures that are in place. So if we have residents at 509 in a one-bedroom unit who are either overhoused in terms of they have too many residents for, or more than that, a one-bedroom would, or if they have reasonable accommodations that they want to seek, or they simply are requesting to be on a transfer list for another unit, we maintain a wait list for that. And so we have individual who's on the wait list for that, who will be transferring over from 509 potentially to the vacant 104 unit. So we'll actually be filling in with a new resident at 509, potentially.
So for a lot of these families, or that don't have families, do you help them move over there? Or do they have to do that themselves or what?
I don't know what's been done in the past, because this is the first time that I've had this situation come up.
I don't know either. I don't think I've ever heard of them move from 509 over there, but I'm just asking, a lot of these people don't have families, so
Sure.
how do they get over there? I don't know if these people do or not.
Yeah, so per our policy, if it's a transfer that's initiated from our side, in terms of, there are situations where we would have to mandate a transfer. Let's say that a unit becomes unsafe for whatever reason, and we say, okay, we need to do some repairs, or we need to vacate you from the unit. Those types of things that are initiated by the CDA, per policy, we would assist in the cost and likely also with actually physically moving. If it's somebody where, a situation where they're requesting independently, per policy, I don't believe that's something that we would undertake. But, I think Jay spoke earlier about being as human as possible. So that's always something that we also keep in mind.
Don't hold me to this though, but I'm better than 90% sure Zach told me that most of the residents, the latest residents, have moved to the Meadow Lane from the 509 building. I know that he said that Augie did, Linda Chapel I believe did also. So it's not something that hasn't happened before.
Yes.
I guess I would just make a cautionary statement on that. As far as helping them with the financial part of it. That's one thing. But getting you guys to some of our staff people to actually move their stuff, I think that would be opening us up to some liabilities we may not want to open ourselves up to.
Yeah, that's a good point. And even the financial, again, if it's requested by a resident and not mandated by us, I would say it's probably not something that we would do. Not just financial resources and the liability piece, but also just managing our own time, obviously, especially right now, given how under-resourced we are from a personnel standpoint.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. The redevelopment financial update, there we are.
The only thing that I'll point out is that we've had some of the expenditures hit for the alleyway again, so some of those orders are reflected in this.
Okay. Any questions on this financial report? Do you need approval on these?
No, so since I've been here, we have not required approval on them. It's certainly something that if you wanted to approve them, we could explore that, but outside of that, I don't think so.
We're looking to do it if we don't need to. I just don't want to go a long time and not have approved anything, so.
Mhm.
Okay, our financial investment statement is here.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any questions on it, I will try to answer as best I can, but I think as the auditors kind of pointed out, we've been in a period of recovery and growth, honestly, for a while with these investments, which has been a welcome, a welcome change.
Yeah. Take the money and run.
Right.
It looks good.
Do they come back quarterly and report, or is it semi-annually, or what? Or don't they?
I think from the last time that they were, especially with the managed account, we want them to come back. I think we made that clear to them. I think initially we were hoping to have quarterly reports. If I recall, when they came to do the initial presentation, I think they asked if they could come back in October, sometime in the fall, and I think that was something that we all acquiesced to. So I would anticipate them coming back in the fall. Unless there's a desire, if you see things changing or if there's anything that comes to mind, I'd be happy to schedule them at any point.
The reports look pretty good,
As
though.
long as they're making money.
Yeah.
Good point. Communications, I don't have any. With that, I would entertain a motion to convene into closed session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Renee. And I would ask Randy to note roll call.
All right. Commissioner Mankey,
We couldn't hear you.
Commissioner Mankey. Commissioner, oh boy, Buchheim. Buchheim, thank you. Commissioner Witherspoon,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiersba,
Aye.
Commissioner Briggs,
Yes.
and Chair Cahill Wolfgram.
Yes.
All right, you give me a minute to
Jay, would you?
get the breakout room set up.
Does anybody need a 2-minute break? This would be a good time to do it if you do.
No, he already wants some.
We have now entered into open session. Unless there's any other business to lawfully come before this body, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:51 PM. A very efficient group.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Close.
Are they staying closed?
IRS.